In this video I'm going to show you how to lay Palio LooseLay. So if you don't know Palio, it's basically made for non-expert fitters like myself, tradesmen, general builders, that kind of thing. It's got all the qualities of luxury vinyl tile, but it's a lot easier to lay. Now, as LooseLay suggests, this has got a non-slip backing. You don't need to put down any adhesive with it, but afterwards you can go around the edge with a tackifier just to keep that edge bit down, but believe me, this stuff stays down. Now, the wonderful thing about this flooring is that you don't need to worry about spacer gaps or anything like that. You don't need to take those skirtings off. In fact, if you do take the skirtings off, you'll be doing yourself no favours at all, because this lays up hard against the skirting piece by piece. Now, I will say at this point that the subfloor is very, very important to get it as smooth as you can. If you've got something like chipboard going down there, just make sure you drive all those screws in and you make sure that you fill the heads if there's anything that looks like it might telegraph through, because the last thing you want with this is to have any pattern coming through from the floor below. So we need to cut an offcut off to make a start so that we can stagger the joints. That's very important to keep those joints staggered, and never cut a shorter bit than the board is wide. So in other words, a square is the least you would ever cut, but actually I like to leave a good margin. 300 millimeters or more is my rule. So I'm using a concave blade here. You can use a straight blade, it depends which you prefer, but I actually find the concave blade is good. Now, all you need is one cut down there and snap it very easily like that, and then run up the back with your knife, and that's your off cut. Now, when you put this into the wall, you want your square edge outwards ready to butt up to, and you might notice a tiny gap along the wall where it's not quite fitting. And this is why I've got two knives on the go, because what you need to do now is just trim off the back of that board as you go. Just put a chamfer on it, nothing too crazy. And what that does is it just softens that edge slightly, just takes away a bit of the depth, and then when you push that into the wall, you find if there's a little bit of roughness in there or a little bit of roughness on the screen, it will allow it to push in nice and firmly, so you won't see that gap at all. And then just take your next board, lay that down hard up against, and continue across the floor. At some point you're going to want to cut into the wall in the end. So let me just show you how you would do that. So you don't need a tape measure, you don't need to worry about anything like that. You can just take another piece of board, put it over the top, make sure it's lined up perfectly. That is important that you get that right. We take another whole board and we push that into the wall as hard as we can. Now, if that wall is out of line, if the wall is slightly on the skew, let this board go with the wall. So in other words, if the wall was off like that, you would want this piece to run off as well, because this is the piece that is going to go in there. So anything that the wall is doing, that's what we need to repeat over to this end of the board, if you like. So let me just show you how that's done. So you might think, okay, we'll cut there, but you don't cut there. You take another off cut and you use that off cut nice and hard up against there. Then you take that board away. That's your whole board, you don't need that, that was just for measuring. And then you get your knife, and one simple score down is all you need. You're not trying to cut through, you're literally just doing one score. And it's important to do one score, because if you do two, you start getting a ragged edge. So again, we snap it, we cut the back edge, what I now do is I just go up there one trim off. Don't take anything off the front edge, but just a trim off the back at 45 degrees, that chamfer. And if I do that, again, that soften that edge down slightly, so that when I put it in now, you can see I'll feed the back edge into there, and I bring it down, and it actually fits absolutely perfectly along the line. There's no gap there at all. So if you do that and you continue to cut them accurately, you won't need to worry about any scotias, any filler, anything like that around the edge. Now, as I said, once you've finished, the best thing to do is just pick those boards up at the edge, lay that little bit of tackifier down and put the boards back down as it becomes tacky, and that really is enough to complete the job. So that's it, I've almost finished laying it. It really is just about the easiest floor I've ever laid. I mean, you compare that with a sheet vinyl or something, I wouldn't even want to attempt that, but I'm perfectly confident with this. And the thing that I really love about it is, sometimes when you're laying this floor, you get to the end and you see a repeat pattern. You think, how did I miss that? Well, the great thing is, with this, you can just get a knife, very, very gently, pick up the edge, lift out a complete plank, and swap it over. And of course, if you've got anything going on underneath that floor like plumbing leaks, that's a tremendous asset. So the big question these days with any floor is, can you have underfloor heating? And the answer is yes, but make sure there's a temperature probe in there so that it limits the temperature to 27 degrees centigrade. That's the magic temperature. It's very, very stable. It's got GRP in it, and the fact that you don't put that expansion gap around the edge suggests that it doesn't move very much at all. But it's got this friction grip back, which means that when you lay it, it's not going to get walked around. It doesn't move. I've had it down for quite a while now, and I can vouch for that it stays where it's put. So that's it. If you want to get hold of LooseLay, you want to have a look at it, you want to show your customer, your local merchants is the place to go.